Hey everyone, welcome to another Kaze-kan Podcast. Hope you're all doing well amongst all this. We're in right now dating this episode somewhat in the beginning of April. Uh, as far as we know, things are starting to slow down, but at the same time increase. So, if every once this whole crazy thing is over and people forget about it, this episode will not help you remember how it is. Today we're going to be talking about Persona. We're going to just have a topic, one single topic, and try to stick to it as best as we can. Before that, some major updates. I know we've been under construction for a long time, but just letting you know that there are some episodes that I have been falling behind to upload, mostly because editing them is just, I not try. I mostly upload episodes kind of unedited with only a few things like some dead air and maybe a few one or two cuts. But other than that, it's still hard to do all that while juggling a job and a family. So to just make it easier, I'm going to be uploading the two recent podcasts that we've recorded about, especially during all this. These two episodes will be uploaded around the time of this, sometime during this month. Sorry, it's a little. Again, we're gonna free fall this. This is not the actual podcast. This is just a disclaimer for the beginning. So you'll see some episodes uploaded that have a lot of dated conversations and topics. Those are things that we talked about before all this went down, before we went into lockdown. So if you see an episode uploaded and you don't know when this actually, it'll just be under a different playlist called Lost Episodes. It's only 3 or 4 episodes, not that many, but they'll be under a separate playlist, and you can see those would be the ones that were uploaded before that were uploaded late but were recorded before the big, you know, game changer. So with that being said, I'm your host Ed Tama23.
And I'm in mug. I can't tell if you can hear me pressing buttons on my controller or not.
No, I actually, you might have to get a little bit closer to the microphone.
Oh, good. As long as you can hear my voice and not hear me tapping on buttons.
No, you're fine. So yeah, our main topic was today to get our minds off of everything. Mug brought up we should talk about how we actually got into the Persona franchise, which is actually an interesting topic because I've been meaning to talk about something like this, doing it. I would even consider even up doing a separate video, but there's so many like Persona fan videos or like creating their how they grew up with it and retrospectives that it's just easy to talk about it on a podcast episode. It would be cool to actually upload videos like we said we would do on our own time. But for now, we'll just talk about our thoughts and everything on this particular episode, and we'll go from there.
Yep.
So I guess I'll start. As far as I know from the top of my head, Persona, I'm pretty much like every other basic Persona fan. I actually got interested around when 3 came out into, the realms. I found it on my cousin had a bunch of video game magazines, and one of them, I think it was EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, and I saw some screenshots of Persona, and it was so interesting, like how screenshots alone made me interested in to trying the game. And I saw some screenshots of Persona 4, but I was more interested in 3. But by the time I actually bought the games, 3 and 4 were on the shelves, and I just got them in a 1-2 combo. Keep in mind, they were still pretty expensive for being PlayStation 2 titles because the Xbox and PS3 were kind of already out. We're still new to the scene, mind you, but they were still, Persona 3 kind of came out in the near the end of the life cycle. I would say Persona 4 came out pretty much when the new generation of consoles were like 1/4, 25% in. Again, this is how I remember it. And I played 3, and I didn't have a problem with it. I don't know why. I don't know what compelled me, but I stopped playing 3 and I put in 4 to see what it was like, and I was hooked. I beat 4 like way before 3. It kind of helps that the games aren't actually connected, and I just got more invested into everything because it was so simplified. And what really put the icing on the
At
cake,
the time, it was connected, but
it was so minusculely like connected that on your first glance, other than the idea of it called Persona, it's in the same timeline and same universe as each other. It's a little bit later in the lifespan of 3. 4 takes place a few years after 3. Um,
and so on.
oh, major spoilers because for the franchise. I know that's not like, oh, you're talking about the franchise, but just in case anybody still hasn't played these games, your warning starts now. Um, so we, so 4 takes place a little bit after 3. I would say a few years. You don't really see anybody. You do visit the school from 3 and 4.
And you hear a little bit of folklore if you look at the Easter eggs.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things in it, but I think 5 only has Risei's photo in the like a poster somewhere, so she still has a career. It doesn't really say how old she is, and so I would say,
They actually have Persona 3 music in there too.
yeah, but is that
But
is that really to,
like outside the DLC, but it's like a small Easter egg if you've been in the franchise for a long time.
oh, and one more thing. I'm gonna a hot take, real quick, since we're talking about the series. But if you are somebody who says, "Oh, I grew up playing 1 and 2," you are a liar and a thief. I'm just no, but you are a liar because
Well,
I know the
shoot.
games came out on the PlayStation 1, but
Now,
nobody
that's
played
the
them.
funny thing about how I got in. So, in the beginning, shoot, I saw it, but I didn't, at the time, it didn't get my interest because when I got into it, I, if I recall, a long time ago during the RPG boom of Final Fantasy VII and whatnot, like Final Fantasy VIII was the first RPG that I beat by myself. No EGM, no game facts, just raw. What am I doing? And hoping for the best.
You know, that's so weird because I think, ironically, the only RPG that I ever beat was Persona 4. I think I mentioned it before in an earlier podcast that I'm not a huge RPG fan, and I still play some. I really do try to get invested into them, but normally grinding. Again, 4 and Persona is an enigma. The SMT franchise does the game well, where it's very quick, and if you, it's in SMT 4, which is the one on the 3DS. What do I? Um, that one is difficult. So the faster you die, the faster you got to pick up on the mechanics and how everything works. So you got to be a little bit on your toes in the SMT franchise. Well, a lot. Like you have to know mechanics. You got to know about buffing and debuffing your demons. In Persona, it's a little bit more streamlined in a sense, but it can be difficult certain aspects. But the RPG flow of attacks and combat is in and out.
Yeah.
It's very quick. There's no build up. Like there is a little bit of a build up for the loading. The music kicks in and the battle starts. And you can even speed it up if you're over leveled in certain areas, which is another aspect I like. I know some other games probably do it, but Persona is the only RPG I know off the top of my head that lets you, again, SMT included. I know some people are going to be like that, but where you can fast forward your progress, especially on lower enemies. The if they make grinding easier, like in the sense that I can breeze through it somewhat to get to the story, which again everybody says it's not about the gameplay, it's about the story.
Yep.
It's like if the RPG doesn't have a good story, then like you're really testing my patience. Oh, it has a lot of nice aesthetics. Okay, I'm like that too. There are some games that I'm like, oh, I liked it, and people will be like, why? That game's terrible. Well,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
s- so getting back to my beginnings, I guess the what you were saying a little bit ago about this being an enigma, that's true about my case because again, I when I was trying to look for another RPG to play because it's like, wow, I want to play more. I beat Final Fantasy 7 and still wanted to go into RPGs. And one of my friends, well, not one of my friends, it's like one of those things to where you see it from someone else and you see it, but then it goes out of your mind.
Yeah.
Persona. But yeah, because what happened was, I think it was before Naruto blew up in the States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were playing Ninja Storm. No, not Ninja Storm, but we were playing Clash of Ninja before everyone knew what
Clash of Ninja
Naruto
1.
was. Yep, Clash of
Oh
Ninja 1.
hell yeah, dude, that is like nostalgia. Oh, like for the GameCube, right?
Yep.
Dude, like Clash of Ninja 1 is so basic. Like it only has
A
characters
couple
up,
characters, but
but we
man,
played
one.
the crap out of it. Oh my gosh. It's like we're going to get
So
off
you
topic.
already know.
Oh, dude. So get this. We were going to visit my granddad in Kermit, Texas, which is a little bit close to New Mexico. So what happened was is that my dad rented this SUV that had this like little those cars with the TV screens on the back of the driver and passenger seat for the kids to
Yep.
watch a movie. We did some like cool. We managed to figure out how to set up the GameCube in it because my brother got a GameCube for Christmas,
Hmm.
and we had that game. And we also rent. My dad let us rent some games. So for that trip, so we had, or did we buy them? I'm not sure off the top of my head if we bought or rented it, but we had Clash of Ninja, and me and my brother was playing that. It was, oh, it's just one of those like little, whoo, you just brought me back to a whole different. Sorry to go off topic, but the fact you brought up Clash of Ninja and Clash of
Yeah.
Ninja 2, Rock Lee, when you do his Hidden Lotus, it's cool. It's so broken because his chakra gauge charges up fast, but he has a minimum no health. So if you can avoid getting hit, you can just spam that attack because he teleports, and unless the
And
character's
then
blocking,
juggle into the Super too. Mm.
and you could spam it like it's so. What would end up happening is that people would just pick him and just do that and see who can knock who out first.
Yep.
I mean, if you're not dumb, you can figure it out and beat that character. But again, we're all kids when that game came out.
Yep. So pretty much in my
Sorry
case,
about that. Ooh.
no, no, you're
uh,
good because that reminds me of good times as well. So this dude, he had that, and I happened. It was like one of those moments where you know how you sometimes you the first one at your friend's house, but you're waiting for everyone.
yeah.
So we waiting, but while we wait, I noticed he was playing Persona. I think it was. two.
Mm-hmm.
Two was the one with that girl, right?
Two was the one where Maya's the protagonist. Yes, with the
Yeah.
hearts.
Yeah, and I remember the first one having weird localization issues and whatnot, but getting back, he had the second one and he was playing that, and I was like, bro, why are you playing this 2D game when everyone's like playing 3D games? It is because it's like reading a good book. And to young me, I was like, oh man, it's like why you want to read you a book? It's like why don't you just play something interesting like throwing lightning bolts at people or something out there coming from PlayStation era to GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2.
Yeah, for me, if it wasn't an arcade cabinet, it was mostly shovelware city for me, with the exception of maybe one or two really good games that I didn't know, or guilty pleasures like Dirge of Cerberus.
So yeah, it, I knew what Persona was, but it wasn't in my mind until far
Excuse me.
afterwards to pretty much what happened was eventually I got tired of turn-based RPGs, and so I started transitioning to more stuff like Crisis Core, Tales of Symphonia. Well, yeah, I was getting big into Tales of Symphonia at that moment. I was thinking, it's like, wow, I do not want to do turn-based anymore because after doing going up with Final Fantasy for a while, then shifting over to the Tales of series, I thought that for, for turn based in my point of view, but I don't know how. But I think one day, whenever you had a PSP back then, right?
Yeah, it was one of the I kind of got the first edition when it came out. Didn't have a lot of games for me because they were expensive and the memory card was small. Um,
But you remember whenever homebrew start coming out for the PSP, right?
yes, and I did not have any friends that knew how to do it.
Oh, I was lucky because I was actually able to get mine working. It's just I had to figure out how to get a big enough memory card to hold everything.
Yeah, that was always my issue too.
And so luckily I was able to get a bit bigger memory card. I don't even remember how I got it. I just know that we were able to get it somehow. And once when I did that, I I went to YouTube and that was it. So after when I got my PSP set up, I was thinking it's like, okay, what do I want on my PSP besides old stuff? And at the time when I looked around, I noticed a lot of people were talking about these things. Fantasy Star, Portable, Crisis Core, and Persona coming to the PSP. And so I figured, you know what? I need something to sink time into because I was bored. So
Yeah,
I happened to pick up like Persona 3 Portable. And so I tried it, and at first the social confidant system got on my nerves, but as I started playing it more, like it got better and better as time went by.
yeah. Just real quick, for me with Persona 3, it was the PlayStation 2 version, and it's weird because I had a PSP and I was aware
Oh, see,
about
that's the funny thing about it.
PSP3P, but I was totally oblivious to it that I like cuz I would watch things on YouTube of Persona 3 and I was like, who is this character? I did not realize that you could like but then I've downloaded I would download dumb stuff, free stuff on PlayStation because again, no homebrew, no fun. So I found the P3P video because I wanted to play more games like Peace Walker and just more action oriented, like any game that could interest me. I think the only RPG that I can remember off the top of my head that I had that was not I'm not saying good or bad, just unique was a game called Manichemia Student Alliance, but it had to do with alchemy, and I think Liam O'Brien played the main character. As far as I know, there is a PS2 version that actually has voice acting during combat. It's a lot better. I would try if you could find playing it. It was okay. I managed to play through most of it, but it's very basic. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It actually got a sequel. Never played the sequel though. Word of mouth from a friend that I had who actually knew that. It was like, oh whoa, you play Manichemia? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, have you played the sequel? I'm like, no. He says, oh, it's really good, much better than the first one. So that's all I know from the sequel. But as far as RPGs, anytime I try to play one or borrow one, I just kind of lost interest because either they were way too like they had too much mechanics that weren't complicated, they were just uninteresting, or the game and the characters itself were uninteresting.
Yeah.
And my brother had a DS. So the only real like I guess a tactical RPG that I played was Advance Wars Days of Ruin. But that one kept me involved because of the music. I dig the story in a sense. Kind of like that one. I really wish they would go back to Advance Wars, but I don't think we'll ever get an Advance Wars game or a re-release, especially with how popular Fire Emblem is.
Yeah.
I dig Fire Emblem. Smash Brothers helped that. Me and my brother played Radiant Dawn, and we still have our copy somewhere around the house. Um,
That's the thing about Fire Emblem. Even though I'd see it in Smash, I still don't have interest for that game. But that's more of the genre style that's played in.
well, for me, what Fire Emblem is now is more of a waifu slash husbando game. It's like, oh, I don't really care about the gameplay or this, Not, I mean, they care about the story, but honestly, I don't see it. I understand certain characters have decent backstories that they explain, but Fire Emblem knows it's fan service, and I wish that people would just admit that that's what they're there for is the character designs. And
Yep.
I mean personality, you can't really go wrong. Oh, but their personality, it's like, oh yeah, but because the stories themselves aren't really that breathtaking. It's very basic medieval like slash like ancient Japan timeline stuff with magic. Like I really couldn't get invested in a Fire Emblem Awakening. Again, characters are okay. I don't really care for Crom though. I know some people would hate me for that, but I mean it's just like I just like he's there. They really push it to like, oh, they really push you for Crom,
Yup.
and it's just like I don't like when games do that. When it's
That's
when it's
Fire Emblem for
when it's
you.
obvious. I know when it's just like, oh, the main protagonist in 4 is super popular or like, but in a way not really. Like the anime maybe, and like I guess it's like you can romance
Sometimes
the character.
franchises do that.
They It's like all the character, you can romance half of your party members. It's like, oh, in 3 that didn't happen, in 2 that it's like, yeah, because I don't think it wasn't a thought. I mean, but that's what
Back to to what I was saying. So apparently, like I seen, like I said, seen Persona when I was younger. Got into it at the end of high school, and ironically, this is where things get interesting in my book. To where I got right after when I started in midway college, like I was starting to get more and more into homebrew for different things. It's just some stuff I had the tools to do, some stuff it's like, nah, I ain't doing that because that's too much time and I got other stuff to do.
Yeah.
But so I beat Persona 3 Portable, and pretty much like I was invested enough to be all like, you know what? I got me like an old PlayStation 2. It's like, can you put homebrew on it? And so it's like, yeah, sure. I had a code breaker, set it up, and the funny thing is, my aunt, she had like the key component I needed for my PlayStation 2 because she wanted her thing fixed. But the thing was, even when I fixed it, she messed up to the point to where it would not work. Period.
Hmm.
So luckily for me, I was like, well, I can't do nothing to fix it, but can I? Cause you was about to throw it away fully. Luckily, I was able to snag the hard drive out of it, and then once I snagged out that hard drive, I put that hard drive in my PS2 and went out from there. And so, of course, y'all already know me. I'm a fighting game junkie, so my PlayStation 2 became my retro FGC box.
Huh.
Shoot, it was also my multiplayer box too. So on the side of that, I figured, you know what? I enjoyed Portable, and I just figured out what Festival was. So I figured, you know what? Let me hop into Festival. And so I wound up playing and beating Festival. And after when I be festival, I enjoyed that, and that's when I started getting more and more into homebrew and all that stuff. So around the same time I beat festival, they allow pretty much someone figured out how to get homebrew working on the PlayStation Vita, and so that's how I started getting into PS Vita, but it was more on half of the stuff I was borrowing. The second half was homebrew. Because like say for instance, the stuff that I borrowed would have to be the Neptunia franchise because my best friend, uh, mm, I feel bad, and I know he gonna jump on me for a minute. Kuro Kutch Kazama. Yeah, because I actually lost. You know how it is to where you know your best friend and you want to say his real name. Like I had to stop myself for a moment.
Oh yeah, it happens.
So Clutch, like he let me borrow. That's a little. It's a little bit of off topic for a thing, but it's how I got into the Neptunia franchise because I seen the anime and I figured, you know what, I like the anime was all right. Might as well get into the franchise. So he had the first game for the Vita, and once when he let me borrow the first game, that was it. I platinumed that game. I love that game so much. So you had that game to thank, and Persona 4 Golden to thank for rekindling my love for turn-based RPGs because of how their weird, unique systems were to where they were convoluted, but convoluted in a fun way to where it's not frustrating. So yeah, that's why I have a love for both the Net 2D franchise and more for the Persona franchise as well because uh, there was only so much you could do with turn-based back then coming off of Fantasy, but yeah, it really brought me back. So I have fun playing with the Neptunia franchise, and I have fun playing Golden. I think that was right about the time when I first met Ed before long before we started even considering doing the podcast and whatnot.
Yeah, we kind of met a little bit around the time when the Vita was, kind of. It was still going strong in Japan, but it was kind of dying in the U.S. And I could
Yep,
say, with honestly, the Vita at this point for me is a Persona 4 golden machine.
yep.
I mean, it's kind of cool that I can play PS1 games on it, especially on the go. Like I was like when my wife was taking her classes and it was just easier to wait for her to finish her class, I would just wait in the like a sitting area and play Symphony of the Night, you know.
What about that Vita and play something, whether it be modern or old?
And it's funny cuz I remember buying a lot of PS1 games on a sale on the Vita and I totally forgot to install them, so it's just oh wow. Oh okay. So also I don't think I no I don't remember. I think I platinum dancing all night. Um
Yeah,
but Persona for me, again, disclaimer, people, I understand if you think 2 is amazing and 1 is, I'm fine with that. But don't tell me it's the first game you played and oh, just you. That's all I was saying. You can love 2 more than 3 and 4. There's like that's what opinions are. But for me, I've always preferred 4. It was like this: 4, 5, 3, 1 and 2 and A only because I played was Kingdom Hearts. And that's not even technically, I won't count that as an RPG. Action
it's an
RPGs are,
action RPG.
yeah, but to me, whenever I mention RPG, it has to be a mechanic that doesn't require like as little input as possible. Like the
Hmm.
action commands that happen in real time, like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where you are doing certain attacks, but things are on cooldown, so you have to wait and plan your attack. But you can't avoid or dodge things like in Kingdom Hearts because it's all based, on your. It's a stat based thing, which is another reason I don't like RPGs for the most part. It's not so much as the game's world, story, or characters. It really falls down to, okay, this is not. It's it's the gameplay is, I want to say, 40% of a good RPG's mechanics. And
Yeah.
if 40% of the game is not good, 60% is not the story. 60%, I would say the 60% is another 20% is the visuals, and the other 40% is the gameplay mechanics. And I think even divided amongst that 40% of the game mechanics is the things you can do in it. Like open world RPGs are kind of, you know, boring in themselves because really they're just a bunch of nothing. They're side quests, but they're not. interesting, investing. And this is coming from somebody who's sunk hours, literally a whole month, to beat an expansion pass of Final Fantasy 14. I'm not saying I
Yeah.
hate RPGs. You just gotta be really, really good in certain aspects. And I give a lot of. I'm a little biased. I'm not gonna. I will admit that, but I'm only human. I can only have so much space in my brain to love specific franchises and invest a lot of my time into them because there's other things I want to do or other games specifically different from Final Fantasy and
It
Persona.
beat 'em up, but put like fighting game mechanics. I have to say the only reason why I got more like somewhat connection to the older personas is just because of the simple phrase "Super Guido,"
Mm,
and that goes back to my friend because I remember him fighting with Guido, but he was like, oh, "I can't believe it." It's like, and he was getting destroyed. I was like, come on, man. It's like we need to. Was like, why not just play something else? He's like, you might as well come back to it later. It's like, no, I'm gonna beat this boss one way or another. And I was like, I felt bad. I was like, okay, so what's the name of this boss? And he just says Super Guido. And when he says Super Guido, when I was young, I just lost it because I was like, no, it, come on, your bosses had to be something like Dragon, the Starship Destroyer, or something. All that Super Guido.
yeah. Oh, also I will. 3 soundtrack for Persona is god tier, and even 5.
Yeah.
It's like even 5. Like still, I listen to a lot of tracks in 5, but it's really hard to beat 3 soundtrack. Lotus Juice just kills it.
Mm, sure, but that well,
I mean,
that's where I have to
Shoji
find
Meguro is,
find disagree agreement and whatnot.
yeah, of course, but I mean, like, it's just for me, it was just so unreal. It's like what, like Iwo Todai. I know I'm butchering that word. The dorm music that plays when you're walking around the dorm is one of my favorite tracks in the game. I like Polonian Mall, the moon's reaching out. It's just
Yeah,
solid
there was a couple tracks that were good to me, but
and
on
but
the other hand, to me, three soundtracks sounded cheesy to me.
cheesy, yes. There's no denying that. But I'm talking about in comparison to the rest of the Persona franchise. For me, and for me, I rate music on how much more I can listen to it on a outside of playing it and just jamming out to it, like, or just think it just rocks in my head. Like a lot of people, like are like, oh, I'm tired of Mass Destruction because of all the the intro, baby, the joke, baby, baby, baby. It's like I still can't get enough of that song. That's but like outside of the,
Eh, It's
excuse me,
when it comes to that, it got better to me with age because instead of listening to it over and over again, I've listened to the remixes and enjoyed it because of that.
I like five
Like,
sound.
say, for instance, like if I were to play four, like there would be like I would think of the remix as what if there was like a cameo battle and where you fought like I don't know like you fought like previous people from Persona 3 and I would think that'd be like the cameo battle and it would work to its effect.
Yeah. But I was
But
gonna
when
say
it comes to like soundtracks though, I'll have to say three, but that's only because I'm a sucker for symphony, like symphony and
mm,
jazz. So
yeah. and like 5 is really good, but it's it's really hard. There's a lot of really good tracks in it. Beneath the Mask is really good. I like the Rain version a lot better. Um, Last Surprise to me is the
Oh no,
weakest.
that's no, no. But I don't want this to span off to the best soundtrack podcast.
I mean, I mean, it's still relative to the persona. I was just saying, out of all the three tracks, I like Last Surprise more than Reach Out to the Truth. A, just a little bit. It's not beating it by a huge margin, but um, Time to Make History beats it.
Mm, okay, I can see that because the thing
Again,
is,
there's not a huge they're not huge margins. It's not like a big like Last Surprise is all the way in last place, all the way back here. I'm just saying in terms of battle, if I really had to pick the best, it would be Mass Destruction. And second place, and it's again really close, like really close, only by like a little pin, is Time to Make History, Last Surprise, then uh, Reach Out to the Truth. And I know there's a remix of Mass Destruction and FES, but I kind of put those in the same category because both of those I like.
it's kind of hard for me to have like a surefire list because I actually have a preference to like obviously I love Last Surprise as like the best in my fine instance, but anything like second and below it would have to be the remixes of. And yeah, I know what people saying. It's like, oh, but why you don't like the originals? It's like, eh, the original can get you bumping, but those remixes,
Because Reach Out
I
to
mean,
the
cause Ed, be real with me. The remix of "Reach Out to the Truth" in Arena, oomph. So I tell you, that's a banger,
oh,
man.
that can be a different thing. Yeah. What's your opinion on the fighting games?
Arena, I enjoyed
Arena.
Arena,
Well, remember, some people are very like. There's a
but
different.
at the same time,
Ultimax and Arena are two different games to people.
oh, that's the thing. I played a little bit of Arena, but it's the same thing for Ultimax to where I only played a little bit of Ultimax, but I still enjoyed both of them. So,
I really
but like I
appreciate.
said, that remix, man.
Yeah. I, yeah, some of the yeah, Arena has some really good tracks. I remember playing it a lot because it was just like, hey, more Persona content, and there was they. I kind of liked the way they implemented older characters into the story. I think Akihiko's interpretation of his character after everything is probably one of my favorites. His design is great. Mitsuru's design is great in that game.
Yep, pretty much Akihiko was the most what would have happened with the dude bruh hero, and it worked.
Yeah, it's uh, the fighting games are fun in their own sense. I wouldn't necessarily like. I know you're more of the FGC guy, but in terms of technicality, I mostly would just play them just for fun. They're not really something I would be like, oh, what watching tourney scene on it, if there is one still.
Eh, it's more niche.
uh, yeah, I mean, I guess they were proud of it enough, or they just needed something for cross tag battle.
But Cross that didn't come like way till later on.
No, I know, but I mean, like, I'm talking about when it comes to like, oh, what is this crossover gonna have? But I mean,
Yep.
it was. I think they mostly just picked it because, hey, reusable assets. And also, but I
It
mean,
works.
and it's still Persona. It's still fun. Also, fun fact: I like Yosuke's room in Persona Arena because have you, if you ever seen the art, it's like you look at the CDs he has on display. One of them is the Oscar, like the, I guess the Grammys around the time, the Grammy Awards. So basically, the best music that had like of the Grammys. I think the Grammys, I guess, releases a CD that has the best songs that were picked for the Grammys. Linkin Park's "A Minute to Midnight" and a Nickelback. I don't know which album it is because I don't. But I think it's the one where it has that song "Rockstar." So it's just like to put it into perspective, Yosuke is listening to very, very mainstream kind of pop, hard rock. It's just,
Yep.
it's just funny when you realize, like my favorite character listens to what I would have hated to see in my playlist when I was younger.
Yosuke is listen to this fro.
Look, um, we'll go into that in a minute. Like, I think we can move on to favorite characters. It's not a. It's FYI. There's not going to be a debate on who's best girl or best character. It's more along the lines of who we found interesting and why. And we can go
Well,
into it further, but I'm not really
we'll
gonna.
have a debate of their best girl off screen.
Like, dude, I'm so sick of it. Like in conventions, like it's like when people see me with a Persona merch or anything, they're like, "Who's your favorite girl?" I like from five, especially with five. I like no hesitation. I'm gonna get into it like this. Best girl from five for me, Makoto.
Oh, we
Right?
definitely gonna go off stream after this.
I know. People. It's funny because people get mad at me for specifically, Yukari second Makoto, and it's always. I'm telling you, it's always
No,
been.
see, I'm
Come,
not
wait,
gonna
no, I'm
get
gonna tell
into
you. I'm
your
gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you this.
Makolo, but I will get on your Ikari.
Listen, I played through again. That's just who I went for in three because it was the only one you can get to in early game. Because you had to
Yep.
have max courage, which to approach Fuka, and max intelligence to approach Mitsuru. I liked I like Mitsuru. I don't hate her. She's not like even if in a contest, I would even consider picking Mitsuru. It's nothing against the other girls. It's just that if I had to pick, I would pick Yukari for dumb reasons. I have a lot of them. I can go into detail, but I don't want to be, again, like you said, off screen, we can go into it for hours. But Naoto personally, I liked her design. Chie, if if my interest for tomboy, like the tomboy character, was more apparent when I played 4, it probably would have been Chie. But I ended up picking Naoto. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's I guess it's because I'd never kind of like had that kind of trope in a game that you can actually like, oh, it,
Yeah, I went for Risei, so
that's fine, and I don't have a problem with that. Hey, it's fine. I have a Risei Dancing All Night figure. Oh, before I've had a Naoto or Chie, any kind of memorabilia. But it's because it was really cheap too. By the way, not saying like that. I'm just saying that it was a good deal. Let me rephrase that. But as for Makoto, I liked my Makoto like design, like just alone. Everything about her, like her persona, was interesting and unique. My only persona that I liked more than Johanna, uh, was um, Goemon. Goemon's design is slick as hell, and
Yeah, that damage.
yeah, and but Makoto, she clicked all a lot of the boxes that I know some people would say like would have probably interested me like if why wouldn't you have picked Chie? Again, Persona 4 came out some time ago and my palette has changed a lot. I'm into a lot of different things that I was when I started playing 3, when I started playing 5. But I want to say this, every time I've admitted my favorite girl is Makoto, I've always gotten kind of either a disappointed, oh, why? And the suspect, Futaba fans.
What you saying?
Futaba
I just
fans do
gave you
not.
a pass on Makoto, but now you accusing me of not giving you a pass.
No, not you. I'm talking about at conventions. Every time I've admitted who's your favorite girl, and I say Makoto, it's usually somebody whose favorite girl is Futaba that gets mad at me. I don't know why. It just is. I don't know why people Futaba fans that I've encountered have a problem with Makoto.
Hmm.
Like
Eh,
like
I honestly don't
Futaba
know what to tell you
is
because when
not
I see
my
Makoto, I don't see any ill will towards her, and eh, I guess it just comes down to the personalities of the people.
not, yeah. And again,
I
my
because
in-law, my brother-in-law, who is the fraternal twin of my wife, is a huge number one girl Futaba. Sorry, I'm gassy from soda. Number one girl Futaba has no ill will against Makoto. We get along fine. It's usually people who are outside of my circle of family and friends who have a problem that I've encountered. Except, but to be fair, Futaba is not my least favorite girl. She's just not my first choice. There's something about her, her game model is fine and cute, but for some reason, I know this sounds weird, but her portrait art kind of throws it off for me. And I
well,
know that
what
people,
can I say? When it comes to who you gravitate towards, it's more again, it's like pun intended, based on your perceptions of well what you cling on to, aka what personas you click with.
I mean, unless of course, well, P5 was the first one to have a lot of romance confidants to like really give you options in this game. And
And I
most,
appreciate it instead of just like being, oh, you got the lovers arcana, you got to go for that, or it's like, well, it's a thing, but you don't have to. But it's like, oh, nah, if there's a girl, you can go for it. I like that.
yeah. So for P5, okay, for P5, Makoto is my one. I like Haru and I like her design. I like almost a lot how she is, except her Phantom Thief outfit doesn't really like stick out to me.
Yeah, nah, I get your
Her
point.
persona is not my favorite either. Again, I'm no ill will. And in fact, like if I like it would be Haru as a character. I feel like if she was given more exposure and everything, and because a lot of Haru fans are like, oh, she would have been a lot better for the story if we got more time to have her develop, because you really don't get to develop her. You don't get a lot of time if you're trying to max out other things on the first run.
Eh, but on the runs after that, that's when she gets more development because you're not on the stringent of I gotta get this done.
Yeah.
What do I do? It's like
No,
nah.
of course, no, of course. I know. I'm just saying, like, but first playthrough is usually your impression of the game.
Mm, I still had a positive perception of her. It's
No, no, no. She's
just
no, and she's fine. She has, uh, she. It's just that certain things people feel like, oh, this wasn't expanded upon. It's like, yeah. I mean, that's who knows why.
I mean, I didn't touch on to her too much until my second playthrough, to where because most of the confidence that I was missing for my second playthrough would have to be the weird ones, like the sun confident, the the confident to where you had to play shogi with.
Yeah, she. I like her. I was actually fun fact. She was a cut Phantom Thief, pretty much.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot her name. I'm so Hifumi.
Ifumi.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. So I liked her. I liked her story.
I think so.
Tay.
Like her abandoned concept got transferred into this new character in Royal.
So okay. So me, my two brother-in-laws, who I'm pretty much like. I play Monster Hunter with them. I play if I'm playing games. Usually, I play games with them. We play Final Fantasy Online together half of the time. We usually have these discussions, and when it comes to the confidants, I think us three have three different opinions, but we strong mutually respect each other on it. Specifically on the confidence, not on the not on the party members. My favorite, personal favorite, is Tay. Uh, my in-law, who's not the twin, who is the oldest brother, favorite is Kawakami, and mad respect, because if I was any different, I would have picked her. Like, wow, like her story is fun. Her confidant was fun to actually go through. The in-law, who's the twin of my wife, the fortune teller lady. I forgot her name. It starts with a C. It's just I haven't played it in a while, but he likes her, and I can understand from her perspective. I didn't really finish her confidant, but I kind of got he has a like it's probably I think it was personality and the thing I think he liked. But anyway, that's like we all have our individual as far as confidants.
Yep.
But I mutually respect we mutually respect each other's opinions on that, because unlike some people, we know how to like handle it.
Yeah.
Mostly because we know each other. And if we really had to settle it, we usually settle things in Smash.
Yeah.
But it's just those characters are just yes, and a bit of it is kind of waifuism. It's just like I like a fictional character, but at least you know my my wife's the same with guy characters, and she tells me her favorites of different games and various RPGs, and we had that's if you can talk to your wife or significant other about your waifus and husband do's and whatever, that's a good relationship there, buddy.
My only question is which one got the body pillows?
If I could, I would. It would be me in a heartbeat. But my thing is I'm picky on some of the designs of the pillows because it's not official artwork, so it's usually by somebody who kind of knows how to draw them. And for me, with Makoto, you have to draw her very specifically, otherwise, you kind of ruin it for me. I know that sounds weird, but it's just certain characters, people. There are certain artists who draw my favorite characters very specifically, and they do them. I almost do the characters justice.
Yep.
And Futaba's story is honestly her dungeon. Design wise, okay. Not really big on Egyptian theme. I like the before you actually enter the tomb. I kind of like that part a lot more than actually inside the pyramid.
That was reversed to me, but that was more because of the music and whatnot.
Her music, her the dungeon song that song is the I think it's called When My Mother Was Around. Oh, sorry, I don't know, but
Yeah,
her dungeon's theme is one of the best dungeon themes in the game. It's really solid. I can listen to it on multiple takes. It almost transcends the album itself.
I
It's
mean
up
the
there.
only thing that ties for that is Size Palace because it's like
Oh,
that
No,
funk,
Size
that
Palace is probably one of the best in the entire game.
that
Concept
funk,
wise, there
man.
are some parts that are a little no. I take that back. It was fun doing the solo arena. I like that, especially if you get the right persona and you just body everybody.
Oh yeah,
Just
that
get somebody who repels physical and light and who is not weak to thunder.
mm-hmm.
I had that one persona who reflects physical attacks. Just boom. I breezed through it until the final one because I think the final guy is Thor. And again, this is the original game, not Royal. I have not played Royal yet because I haven't been able to get a copy of it due to everything going on. And I want a physical copy. I do not want a digital copy. I'm willing to
Yep.
put my love for the series on hold if it means to get an actual physical copy for the Personas franchise. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I ordered the Steelbook edition, so
What was cool about me, when I got the Steelbook edition of the original base game, was a guy was like, "Hey, we got one more Steelbook case. You want it?" I'm like, "Cool, thanks." Sometimes, hey, GameStop may be a kind of company, but the employees there can be really cool sometimes. So don't give flat to a lot of the employees. A lot of them are just dudes who play games like us. Give them some slack, and it's not their fault that they're the company made them almost stay open during everything.
yep.
Just FYI, I know this is dating the thing, but just letting you know the GameStop employees are really cool when it comes to Persona and all that jazz, especially when you talk to them about their favorite stuff. I've,
Yep.
but anyway, back to this Persona 4, 3, and 5. I can talk about
Yeah.
5 a lot more than the other two because it's still kind of fresh. I just beat it. In terms of beating games, I beat that one the most recently. I haven't picked up 3 in a long time, but 3 has a lot of really good story moments that transcend a lot of moments that happened in 4, my favorite game.
That's the thing. Three. Well, I already said it before prior. To me, like three, four, and five, solid stories and whatnot. It's just coming. Like some of them, I just can't come back to primarily because of gameplay and whatnot.
Yeah, 3 has that issue of, hey, I can't set my command for my party as manual so I can control them. When I saw that in 4, I was like, and it's funny because I haven't played 4 in forever. I forgot that you have to set it to make them
Oh, you
manual.
remember how you couldn't go too long in a dungeon because if you did, your party members will get tired and
Yes,
you got to go
the
back.
fatigue system is the worst.
Oh,
It's almost what keeps me away from playing 3. Honestly,
yeah.
I can handle the teammates working on their own because you just make personas that can carry their slack and you go, but that fatigue system just
Kills it.
because with the fatigue system, and to be fair, I think I know why they did that because in 4 and 5, if you do it right, if you can manage your SP, you can grind in the first area. Because usually what happens is that I usually fight until I'm like almost out of SP completely, and I progress
Right?
to where a point where until the game says, "Hey, we can't go any further. We have to leave the dungeon for now."
Shoot. I have to say the protagonist from three because Lord, that man had to go, or grown woman, depending on which game you play, they had to go through so much, and they're still going through that hell.
Yeah, they're pretty fresh. The stuff they had to go to, the stakes were higher in three. I'll admit that. Compared to that, the four and five's protagonists, their their enemies were really like whoa, like practically god tier as well, you know. But I think the stakes were higher in five and three had really high stakes, but I think three it was like almost like you there was nothing they could do about it. Like it really
Yeah,
made you feel like inevitability of trying to fight the fight. Like again, there's even an option to erase your memory so that way you just are oblivious to the end of the world.
why though?
I mean, it's supposed to be a context. It's supposed to be contextual of like showing you like how serious it is, but it's supposed to test your resolve. You know, it's meant that like
Well,
it's
then you already know what my resolve was. That time it's like erasing your memories not gonna really solve the problem.
yeah,
You're
of
still
course.
gonna get it anyway.
Yeah. Um, let's see. So for me,
Yeah,
my favorite he man. Ooh, he chased that. He oh, it's just. I mean, I know it's a fake out, and but when Nanako supposedly dies, I felt more bad for Dojima's reaction than I because your character kind of just tilts his head, and it shows the NPC. It shows your party members crying over it, but Dojima's was the most gut wrenching. Like he's already injured himself, but he's trying to get to the room of the guy who did it, and he's yelling, and his all his emotions are coming out, and it's like, man, it's like this is a real good scene,
ooh,
and yeah, it's
man, I was lucky not to get that. I don't know. I don't know how, but I was able to get the true ending my first playthrough. But I guess it was more
no, it's
because of wit and whatnot on my part. Because I was like, nah,
no. In
things are too convenient. And then that's when I got the answer. I was like, yeah,
Na-
nah,
Nanako
this.
Nanako dying is a fake out for Teddy is in his but what I'm saying this that's all that stuff happens before you encounter before you talk to the guy who did it because I got the true
Yeah.
ending too because I fought Izanami but I'm
But at
saying
the same time, that moment you figure something was off. I mean, you didn't have the grand scheme of what was off. You just figured something
Yeah,
was a
and
beast.
if you're somebody who's like really like, yeah, I can't wait to kill this dude, you probably chances are you probably pick that. But when it gives you that option, it kind of makes it obvious. And as long as you don't agree to it, it's not that hard to get the continue. Because after that, then you have there's more. And if you talk, and again, finding the true killer is kind of easy. You figure it's a Dachi because it kind of points you in that direction.
Yep.
But even after that, there's still
Bro,
more.
Gojima's reaction to Adachi.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy that like that's one, two, that's two fake outs.
Yep. Two fake outs.
And but getting there wasn't. It's not too hard once you like, cause in five, it's not really. And they streamline it so much is that all you have to do is not sell out anybody in that one scene, and you won't get the bad ending, which is kind of just an ending anyway. Um,
Yep.
it's not even as like if you push the dude in the TV, there's actually an animated ending where they're saying goodbye to you at a train, and it feels it's weird. I've watched it like on YouTube, and it doesn't feel like a good ending. It makes it feel like it's a sad ending because in that point Nanako's still dead, and they're just kind of like, oh, it's good seeing you, and glad it's finally over. Bye. And you could tell that
Yeah.
doesn't feel like the right ending. Oh man,
And I'm glad I didn't get that ending then.
yeah, no, I YouTube. I would, cause I'd also look up before I had Golden, before I had a Vita. I would watch videos on YouTube to see what was in added. I didn't watch a lot of it. I didn't spoil it, but let's just say I don't know how it works. I don't but that scene when you're trapped in the snow, I think I was with Naoto, and you find the TV. That's when you're finding the new girl when you're trying to find her location.
Yeah, that was a weird dungeon.
It was all right. It was a gimmick boss anyway. It wasn't that. It was all right. Marie is probably a definition of why is this character here? It
And gladly they didn't make that same mistake in Memorial,
yeah.
which I appreciate.
Kasumi doesn't look like she would. It would have been. Would have been interesting if instead of making a whole
Because
new Phantom Thief, they just if it was Hifumi. I'm not
yeah,
saying Kasumi's a bad addition. I'm just saying it would have been like,
but
oh,
there's a reason why I said Hafumi's concept is her, essentially,
yeah, I figured.
and it works. Because it's not like, oh my god, it's like she Mary sued everything. I was like, no, she fits just like the rest of the cast, and she comes in a moderate pace to where you're not like, oh, stop everything what you're doing.
Yeah. We'll pretty much keep light spoilers on Royal. One, because I don't really know anything added to it. Two, there's not much to talk about it because since I can't, go back and forth on things of that. Um,
And I'm playing it like as we speak too, so I'm not really. I haven't got to too much new stuff per se. If I were to spoil something for Ed, it wouldn't be something like big. It'll just be when it comes to confidence, you would have to focus on the new confidence
yeah,
immediately. But that's
uh,
about it.
yeah, and to be fair, I've seen people talk about what
I
things or
haven't
changes.
spoiled the game, but something tells me if I don't focus on these new confidence, immediately something bad is gonna happen. I don't know why. I just had the feeling that I gotta pay attention to these new people. But we'll see if my caution peters out. Hopefully, I don't get a bad ending when I get through playing this game.
Yeah.
But
Ooh wee. It's a interesting series, and it's practically one of the most popular RPGs of this current era.
yep.
Um, but it's one of those, like, I'll say, like, I love Donkey when he said, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, how is it gotten? It's it's just an anime RPG that's fun to play. Like, if somebody that's not into RPGs can enjoy that game, it might even, like, and some people might not like Persona. I don't I haven't ran into somebody who hates the series, and usually people that hate the series talk about the series more than
Oh, I
the
know someone who doesn't like it, but they pretend that they like it. I remember when I was talking about how this dude said, "Oh, I like it. You remember the first one?" And then when I told him, it's like, "Yeah, they brought back the first mechanics in the fifth game. You should play it." Ah, nah. I was like, "Wait a minute. I thought you liked the first game." Nah, yeah. And it's like, "Oh, you remember this boss that didn't exist until part three?" Yeah, I remember that boss, and it's that gotcha moment to where it's like, bro, that was in three. That wasn't in one.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but as you see, it's like we are really big into Persona. Well, shoot, Ed has his reasons, and mine is a rekindling of love for the turn-based RPGs. Because I
yeah.
guarantee you, if I would never came across Persona, I would have been done with turn-based completely.
Yeah, I think that's kind of another thing for me too. I Persona is the series that kind of makes me tolerant of RPGs. And again, I understand if you like RPGs, but you can't tell me you can't use action RPGs as examples. Nier, Automata, and Kingdom Hearts do not count. Like action
I'd have to
RPG.
say Nier is its own thing, kind of like Ninja Gaiden in a sense.
Yeah, but would you consider it like an RPG in this, like would you put it on the same rack of Final Fantasy and Persona?
I would put it in a category of it's a action game with RPG mechanics tacked on.
Yeah, like Kingdom Hearts. I would put it more to akin to Kingdom Hearts, but as far as like traditional sense, you know. And the only reason Xenoblade gets put into the kind of in the Final Fantasy and Persona RPG realm is because it's not really an action game. You don't get to control mechanics of the combat. You can figure out your stats and leveling up characters, but ultimately once you're on a battlefield, it all determines on how much you've leveled up and your stats and weapons and equipment and blades.
Yep.
And at least in Kingdom Hearts and Nier, even if you don't do that, you can sort of get through the game pretty fairly. But trying to do everything else, you kind of need a level up to do the harder fights. That's not really, it's sort of grinding, but grinding's only really a problem if it's a main story boss or something like in, I think the biggest complaint is Dragon's Quest 11, the giant octopus. So you can breeze through the game like nothing, but when you get there, it's like go back and grind. Again, from word of mouth, not saying that's what I've heard. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying when RPGs do that, they really don't do that anymore. Like new school RPGs with traditional gameplays don't really make it that hard unless you're playing on like a nightmare difficulty if there's an option.
Yep.
Because Sekiro, Dark Souls, and all those games are not. I wouldn't consider those RPGs either because there's a lot of interaction. Yeah, you do need a level up, but again, you can sort of cheese things if you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost a Venn diagram of stuff. But I can play Bloodborne and Dark Souls over Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, hell, even Persona, because most of the like m- Dark Souls and Sekiro,